Hello everyone, welcome, and I am really excited to do this episode. It's going to be another solo episode. I am sure you have noticed that I was interviewing some really awesome people from around the world in the last few weeks. And in this episode, I will be doing the talking. I have a short presentation for you guys, and the topic here is that I am not feeling it, or I don't feel good about it. And this is such an old excuse that it has to go. It's also a huge saboteur, and I will get into how it shows up and why this is a problem, and then what you can do about it. And before we continue, I'd like to say that the Prosperity Mindset channel is specifically designed for those people who want to make a serious upgrade and change in your personal life. Let it be a relationship, let it be your career, let it be your personal health and finance. And it focuses on the transformational aspect of renewing your subconscious mind. The subconscious mind is something that is below the surface. Everyone has it, you have it. It's not a religious thing. It is something that you absolutely have to get to know, especially those of you that are ascending and entering the new earth. And when you learn to understand and learn to work with the subconscious mind and all of these programs, the beliefs, and then the shadows and the emotions, you will be able to take things apart and you will be able to put your life back together so it begins to work. And then the byproduct of it, you'll be able to achieve prosperity, you'll feel awesome, and you'll have the results you want. So, in this episode, I'll get into a very strange, very old, might even be 1,000-year-old or even beyond that, an excuse where people say, I am not feeling it, or it doesn't feel right. Now, I'd like to talk about an aspect of it where it's completely accurate. There are certain things that don't feel right, and you are spot on, and you should not pursue them. But I see this very often, especially today, where people are very confused because the old references of an old world sort of fell away or fell apart. We cannot really go back and examine even our history so much. Now we have to create a brand new set of references for us. And what that means is that when you make a decision, you want to go for something, you want to improve yourself, change something about you, change something about your life. The way we have been making decisions is at first the heart says, yes, I love it. And then comes the ego, comes the noisy mind, and will start justifying why you don't want it. Okay. Then there's the other way where you make a good decision, the heart really agrees, yes, this is what I want, and then you start justifying why you want it and why it's a good idea. That's perfectly fine. That's how we all buy things, and that's how we make decisions. But what I see now is the self-sabotage aspect of it is when your heart says yes, and then you talk yourself out of it. And this particular episode is about when something doesn't feel right, or when you're not feeling it. Is it really true? Is that feeling really reliable? Okay, that's the topic here. Is that feeling worthy of trust? Is that really a good enough feeling to make the decision for you, especially when your heart said yes and then you talk yourself out of it? So I see this with especially ladies a lot, that they want something, their heart skips a beat, they're excited, and all of a sudden 2 or 3 days later, when the initial excitement is gone, they talk themselves out of it and they simply don't show. Now, I remember many years ago when I was listening to T. Harv Eker's interview, he said one amazing sentence, and I can relate to it because I see the same thing today. The interviewer asked him, said, Harv, what is the biggest problem, the biggest saboteur that people have today? And without skipping a beat, he said, the biggest problem is that they don't show. Interesting. So in other words, they commit and they don't follow through. Okay, so they say they want something, but they don't carry out. So here's a problem with that. It's a very old pattern, and the longer we do something, the better we get at it. Would you agree? Even if it's self-destructive, or it could be really good. So the longer we do something, the more we practice it, the better we get at it. Is this really a good pattern? Is this really a pattern that we want to perpetuate? To say something and then do another, to not walk the walk or talk the talk. Well, it's absolutely the worst kind of thing that we could do to ourselves and to our environment, because it lowers our self-esteem, it completely lowers our value, our worth, or worthiness in addition to it. And then the lower our value goes, the worse decision we are going to be making from then on. So it's a downward spiral. And that's what I see so much of today. And those of you that want to really ascend and heal and enjoy a good life, you can simply just consciously stop this pattern. You become aware of it. So it all starts with education. And then when you have this piece of information, this education, then you can start assessing or actually intercepting these patterns, because that's the first step. And then you can certainly learn then, to decode the subconscious mind, the subconscious world, and then you'll be able to then change this permanently. And it's not only a very self-destructive attitude and a self-destructive behavior, it has also become a character flaw. Okay, this is huge. So it's not only a self-saboteur, it's not only an ancient pattern of saying one thing and doing another and not following through just because you don't feel it or it doesn't feel right and you know in your heart that that's what you should be doing. Then it's a huge character flaw. And these character flaws, by the way, are a very sneaky way how your ego acts out. Your ego does not want you to improve all that much. It will tell you to jump up and down and do the rah-rah, the motivational stuff, but it has so many secret agendas and it doesn't really want you to be super successful. It will allow you to go only so far. And it's not the outside world that limits you. It's your own ego. It's your own conditioned mind, and there are thousands and thousands of tricks that the ego employs within us, and you will actually feel it. You will make a decision based on it. So Cavett Robert described the definition of character by saying the character is the ability to carry out a good resolution long after the excitement of the moment has passed. Okay? So character is the ability to carry out a good resolution long after the excitement of the moment has passed. So in other words, this is where you have to remember that you committed to something, then you have to actually go for it and carry it out. In other words, show up. In other words, walk the walk. In other words, talk the talk. And I'd like to also inform you and tell you about why most people don't walk the walk or talk the talk. And this should be very helpful for every single one of you, because you might actually have some good, strong, what we call light shadows. These are masks that you're very perseverant, you're very diligent, you're very trustworthy, but underneath that there's the same thousands and thousands of subconscious programs run. And all depends on the context. They might actually yank your chain and then make you do things or say things that you didn't really want to say or do. So what you can do is to actually start pushing through, use your consciousness, your willpower to go through the decision. And if you can't do that, then examine why. And this is the part that I wanted to share with you. What will happen if you actually went through with your decision? What will really be the outcome that you wanted, but yet you're so interestingly self-sabotaging about? Now, a lot of our decisions are very interesting because they involve potentially hundreds of sub-stories and hundreds of sub-considerations. Many times I've seen that people are very excited, they make a decision, and then when it comes to action, they will sabotage because, and then this is where you put in your unconscious answers. You sabotage because, and the typical answers are, well, you don't feel worthy of something, you don't feel deserving of something, and those are all limiting beliefs that we have potentially, most people have thousands of, you have to work through them. But quite often, also because you've been conditioned to actually feel guilty for becoming successful. There's so much guilt in today's people, the mind, the subconscious mind, that those guilty feelings will actually steer you to make all the wrong decisions and to not show up. So when you really want something and your heart is really invested in it, and then comes the mind and quite often the ego, like do you feel guilty? What do you feel guilty about? What types of guilt stories are there? Okay. And then, what other reasons do you have to not follow through? What kind of character will it make you if you don't follow through? And you should see the progression, which is a negative progression, why so many people are doing so poorly today is because they want something and then they talk themselves out of it. Now, here is a really tricky thing that the ego has done to us. And once you know that, you'll be able to see yourself from a very different perspective or very different angle. Your ego has also sold you a ticket to believing that you have to go and do things alone. It tells you that it's lonely at the top. It tells you that, if you outgrow, someone, let it be your partner or family members, you will be all alone and it's a lonely world out there. And it's not true. Actually, especially from here on, as Earth is raising its vibration, as we are all ascending and going up, actually it's becoming very loving at the top. In the old 3D world, in the old deceptive and manipulative world, maybe that was a belief structure that had its place. I don't know, it's not for me to say. I never believed in it. But your job is to really start intercepting these patterns, because it really does nobody a favor or any good if you're not thriving or prospering yourself. Okay, I hope that makes sense. So the way to really come out of this pattern is to make a decision that you want something and actually stick to it. It might be scary, it might be unfamiliar, but you have got to really go for something. You have to start overcoming your fears, even at the conscious level. And then when you start learning about the subconscious change techniques, how to actually eliminate a fear, to never feel that again, there are techniques for that. Then you will all of a sudden start making better and better decisions. They're not going to hurt. They're not going to feel so heavy. They're going to feel more and more joyous. You'll be able to go for what you want and actually enjoy the fruits of it. So explore your patterns. See why you, in the past, why you actually wanted something and didn't go for it. Deep, deep, deep in our psyche, even at the DNA level, there are beliefs about ourselves where you might believe, I had this, I had to certainly shift out of it and change the belief, and then the shadow story about it called the insufficient. So if you feel that you're insufficient to any degree, if you feel that there are insufficiencies, well, you got to heal that. Otherwise, those insufficiencies then will start acting out and will lower your worth. You will buy into them more and more, and then also takes away your resourcefulness. You're full of source. That means God flows through you. Your source is inside you. But when you don't handle your insufficiencies, when you don't handle your insecurities, when you don't handle all of these subconscious programs, it will chip away from your resourcefulness, and give it time. You'll start feeling like you're pushing opportunities away, you're pushing money away, and you're pushing relationships away, and that's not what I want for you guys. Cool? So start actually using conscious effort, and then start filling your batteries up, being full of source, being resourceful, and then you'll see how your self-esteem and your worthiness will climb and increase. So when you're supposed to do something and when you commit to something, do it anyway. And as you do that, initially it might feel a bit off, but when you start moving with it, then the good feeling will return. So when you said, I don't feel like it, or I'm not feeling it, that feeling will come back once you start taking action. Your heart has been so deprived of that particular type of pride and fulfillment because the ego and then the subconscious mind has been so tainted. The thinking patterns have been so tainted that we want something and then you say no. You want something else and you say no. And everything is just a no, 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 and you resign from life, and that's why so many people struggle today. So as you begin to make decisions and you stick with them, and remember, you're not alone. There are all kinds of mentors out there who exist. There's all kinds of wonderful other people who can help you and take you by the hand. Then these good feelings will return. And as you begin to embark on this empowered attitude, where you actually show up, no more excuses, and you actually do what you committed to, the excitement will return again. And then you'll be able to keep your commitments. You will increase your worth, your value. You will form new friendships. You will be more trustworthy. People will like you. They will respect you more. And all of a sudden, life begins to shift into a new model. The model that you've always wanted, maybe as a child, the model that you always wanted, maybe as a parent, is where now it begins to flow. And once the flow is back, the money will start flowing to you, your health will improve, your relationships will improve. And all of that boils down to just a few things. One of them is personal power. Ralph Waldo Emerson said, "Do things and you will have the power." Not the other way around. Most people wait. Oh, I will do it when I feel good. You will never feel good without doing something. There's no achievement in it. And as I mentioned, the self-esteem, as it erodes by not doing things, by not achieving things, you also give away your power. You also decrease your self-esteem, and you become just a very, very robotic and empty shell. That's the opposite of what we've been designed to do, designed to achieve. So step in your power, accept yourself, start working on yourself at the subconscious level. And whether you're in a church, a teacher, or doctor, or nurse, or a parent, or whoever you are, this is universally applicable to all of us. The subconscious mind is your operating system. It contains all of your memories, your emotions, your beliefs, and you have the power to access them and reshuffle those puzzle pieces so you can create a life that serves you and serves others. So let this old "I'm not feeling it" story go and replace it with "I will do whatever it takes," because the world needs more of that today. The world needs you. The world needs you to show up committed, bring your gifts and talents to the marketplace, and then start thriving, because that is exactly what's going to give other people the positive example that they need so that they can come out of their misery. Because of you now have shifted at the subconscious level. You are now bringing your gifts to the world. You are now actually a person who is worthy of trust, who's worthy of respect, and now you're thriving. So ladies and gentlemen, this is the end of this episode. If you have any questions, you can write us at info@amindinstitute.com. And I also appreciate you leaving a review and a rating on Apple Podcasts so that others can find it easily. Subscribe and share, and we'll catch you guys next week.